There are songs that make you dance, songs that make you cry, songs that make you remember. And then there are songs that make someone's world collapse in front of thousands of people. Paloma Faith wrote one of those songs. It became her biggest hit. Millions of people sang it at weddings, at heartbreak moments, in their cars at midnight. They thought they knew what it meant. They had no idea. Because the song wasn't about love, it was about betrayal. It was about a man who broke Paloma Faith's heart in the cruelest way possible. A man who lied, who cheated, who made her question her own sanity. And for years, he got away with it. He moved on. He found someone else. He lived his life as if nothing had happened. Until one night in Manchester, when Paloma Faith saw him sitting in the audience with his new girlfriend, and she made a decision that would change everything. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story about justice, about artistic power, about what happens when you hurt someone who knows how to turn pain into poetry. This is the story of the song that destroyed a cheater, and the night Paloma Faith made him pay. His name was Marcus Holt, though Paloma never said his name publicly, not once. Even when journalists asked, even when fans tried to figure it out, she kept that one detail private. But everything else she put into the song. They met in 2008. Paloma was still climbing, not famous yet, not the icon she would become. Just a girl with a powerful voice and vintage dreams, playing small clubs in East London, sleeping on friends' couches, surviving on instant noodles and ambition. Marcus was a music producer, not a big one, not someone who worked with major artists, but he had a studio, he had connections, he had the thing Paloma needed most at that point in her life: access. He came to one of her shows at a pub in Shoreditch. Afterwards, he approached her with that smile, the one that seemed genuine, the one that made you trust him. "You're incredible," he said. "That voice, that style, you're going to be massive." Paloma, exhausted and broke, looked at this confident man in his expensive leather jacket and thought, finally, someone who sees me. "I'd love to work with you," Marcus continued. "I've got a studio in Camden. We could record some demos, get you in front of the right people." And that's how it started. Professional at first. Studio sessions, late nights working on tracks, Marcus teaching her about production, about the industry, about how to navigate a business that chewed up talented women and spit them out. But then it became something else. The late nights turned into dinners. The dinners turned into conversations that lasted until dawn. The conversations turned into something that felt like love. Marcus was charming. He was attentive. He remembered the small things, how Paloma liked her coffee, the vintage shops she loved, the way she worried about her mother back home. 3 months after they met, Paloma told him he loved her. They were in his studio, 3 a.m., surrounded by half-empty coffee cups and handwritten lyrics. He looked at her with those eyes and said, "I've never met anyone like you. You're extraordinary." Paloma believed him. Why wouldn't she? He seemed so sincere, so devoted, so different from the other men she'd dated, the ones who were intimidated by her talent, who wanted her to be smaller, quieter, less. Marcus seemed to celebrate everything about her. He encouraged her boldness. He loved her vintage aesthetic. He told her daily that she was going to be a star. And Paloma, who'd spent years fighting to be seen, fighting to be heard, finally felt like someone understood her. She moved into his flat in Camden 6 months after they met, left her friend's couch, left her independence, merged her life with his. That's when things started to change. It was subtle at first, small things. Marcus would check her phone while she was in the shower. "Just making sure no one's trying to take advantage of you," he'd say with a smile. "The industry's full of predators." He'd question where she'd been, who she'd talked to, why she hadn't answered his texts immediately. "I worry about you," he'd explain. "You're so trusting. People will use you." He started criticizing her clothes. "That dress is a bit much, don't you think? You don't want people to get the wrong idea." He'd suggest she tone down her makeup. "You're beautiful naturally. You don't need all that." Paloma, so desperate to make the relationship work, so grateful to have someone who believed in her career, started changing, dressing differently, apologizing for things that weren't her fault, second-guessing her instincts. Her friends noticed. "He's controlling you," her best friend Sarah said over coffee one afternoon. "This isn't healthy." But Paloma defended him. "He's just protective. He cares about me. You don't understand. He's helping my career." And Marcus was helping her career. He'd produced her first real demos. He'd introduced her to industry people. He'd helped her get her first record label meeting. So when doubts crept in, Paloma pushed them away. She told herself she was lucky. She told herself this was just how relationships worked. She told herself that the uncomfortable feeling in her stomach was just anxiety, just her own issues, just her being difficult. For 2 years, Paloma lived like this, walking on eggshells, constantly explaining herself, making herself smaller to keep Marcus comfortable. And then, in September 2010, everything shattered. Paloma was performing at a venue in Brighton, a showcase for industry people, a big opportunity. Marcus had told her he couldn't come. He had a studio session booked, couldn't cancel, but he'd be there in spirit. The show went well. Paloma sang her heart out. Afterwards, she was buzzing with adrenaline, surrounded by people telling her how talented she was, how they wanted to work with her. She called Marcus. No answer. She texted him. "Show went amazing. Call me when you're done in the studio. Love you." She took the last train back to London, arrived at Camden around midnight, walked to their flat with her heart full of hope and excitement. And that's when she saw him. Marcus, coming out of a restaurant, with a woman, a blonde woman in a red dress, his arm around her waist, kissing her. Not a friendly kiss, not a platonic kiss, a kiss that said everything. Paloma stood there frozen on the pavement, her guitar case in one hand, her phone in the other, watching the man she loved with someone else. Marcus didn't see her. He was too busy laughing with the blonde woman, walking her to a cab, kissing her again before she got in. Paloma finally moved. She walked up to him. "Marcus." "You... what? I thought you were in Brighton." "I was. The show ended. I came home. Who is she?" Marcus's brain was working fast. She could see it, the calculations, the lies forming. "She's a client. We were discussing a project." "You were kissing her." It's not what it looked like." Don't you dare lie to me right now." Marcus changed tactics. His face hardened. "Fine, you want the truth? Yes, I've been seeing her because you're so consumed with your career that there's nothing left for me. You're always performing, always writing, always focused on yourself. I needed something real." Paloma felt like she'd been punched. "I'm focused on my career because you told me to be. You told me I needed to work harder. You told me..." "I said work harder, not disappear. You're so obsessed with being famous that you've forgotten how to be a girlfriend. That's not... You're twisting everything." "Am I? When's the last time you asked me about my day? When's the last time you made me feel like I mattered?" And there it was, the manipulation, the gaslighting, making her feel like his cheating was somehow her fault. Paloma stood there on that Camden street at midnight, and something inside her broke. Not just her heart, something deeper, her ability to trust her own perception of reality. "How long?" she asked quietly. "What? How long have you been seeing her?" Marcus hesitated, then, 6 months. 6 months. Half a year, while Paloma had been living with him, sleeping beside him, believing his lies about late studio sessions and client meetings. "Get out," Paloma said. "What?" "Get out of my sight. We're done." "Paloma, come on, we can work through this. I made a mistake." "Get out." Marcus looked at her, saw something in her face that made him stop talking. He nodded. "Fine,
But you'll regret this. You'll realize you need me. Your career, everything I've done for you, you'll never make it without me." He walked away, left her standing there, alone, at midnight, in the city that suddenly felt too big and too cold. Paloma went back to their flat, packed a bag, left before Marcus could return, went back to Sarah's couch, back to instant noodles, back to zero. But this time, she had something she didn't have before. She had rage, pure, focused, crystalline rage, and she was going to turn it into art.
For the next 3 months, Paloma wrote, not just songs, exorcisms. Every lie Marcus had told her, every time he'd made her feel crazy, every moment she doubted herself because of him, she wrote it all down. And then she turned it into melody, into poetry, into something that felt like justice. The song was called Liar's Lullaby, though by the time it got to the record label, they'd changed the title to something more radio-friendly, Stone Cold Sober. The lyrics were devastating. Anyone who'd been through what Paloma had been through would recognize every line. "I'll be the late-night lady you won't recognize. I'll be the girl who makes you realize you had something good, something real, something true, but you threw it away for someone new." But here's what made the song genius. It wasn't obviously about Marcus. It was universal enough that millions of people could relate to it, vague enough that Marcus couldn't sue her for defamation, but specific enough that if Marcus heard it, he'd know. He'd know every single line was about him. The song was released in 2009. It became a hit. Not massive, not yet, but big enough that Paloma started getting real attention, radio play, TV performances, her first taste of actual success. And the whole time, Marcus was watching, texting her, calling her, leaving voicemails that swung between apologetic and angry. "I heard the song. Is that about me? You can't do this. I helped you. I made you." Paloma blocked his number, changed her locks, moved on with her life. Or tried to. Because the truth is, you don't just move on from someone who manipulated you for 2 years, who made you question your own sanity, who cheated on you and then made you feel like it was your fault. Paloma carried that pain through every performance, through every interview, through every new relationship that she couldn't quite trust. And Marcus moved on easily. Within months, he was engaged to the blonde woman from that night. Within a year, they were married. He posted photos on social media. Happy couple, perfect life, no remorse. It ate at Paloma. The injustice of it, that he got to walk away unscathed while she was still picking up the pieces. But she channeled it into her music, into her image, into becoming the artist she was always meant to be. Bigger, bolder, more successful than Marcus could ever be. By 2012, Paloma Faith was a genuine star. Her debut album had gone double platinum. She was headlining festivals. She was a household name. And Marcus was still producing demos for unknown artists in his Camden studio. Paloma thought that would be enough. Success as revenge, proving him wrong about needing him. But fate had something else planned. It was November 2013. Manchester, the Apollo Theatre. Paloma was on her Fall to Grace tour. The venue was packed, 3,500 people. The show was going brilliantly. Paloma was backstage during the interval, drinking water, reviewing the set list for the second half, when her tour manager came in looking uncomfortable. Paloma, there's something you should know." "What?" "Marcus Holt is in the audience, front row, with his wife." Paloma's blood went cold. "You're joking." "I wish I was. They bought tickets months ago, before we added this date to the tour. Do you want us to, I don't know, remove them?" Paloma thought about it. She could have them kicked out. She had that power now. But that felt small, petty. And then another idea formed, one that made her smile, not a kind smile, a dangerous smile. "No," she said, "let them stay. In fact, make sure they have the best view possible." Her tour manager looked confused. "Are you sure?"
I'm sure. Trust me. She finished her water, reapplied her lipstick, looked at herself in the mirror and saw not the broken girl from Camden, but the woman she'd become, powerful, successful, untouchable. She walked back on stage, the crowd roared, and Paloma looked directly at the front row, directly at Marcus. He saw her looking, his face went pale. His wife noticed his reaction, followed his gaze to the stage, looked confused. Paloma grabbed the microphone. "Good evening, Manchester. You having a good time?" The crowd screamed. Paloma smiled. "Before we continue, I want to talk about something. I want to talk about betrayal." The venue went quiet. This wasn't part of the usual show patter. "I wrote a song a few years ago. It became quite popular. Most of you probably know it, but what you don't know is why I wrote it." She paused, looked directly at Marcus again. His wife was watching him now, suspicious. "I wrote it about someone who lied to me, someone who manipulated me, someone who made me feel like I was crazy for trusting my own instincts, someone who cheated on me and then made me feel like it was my fault." The crowd was silent. You could hear individual breaths. And the funny thing is, that person is here tonight, in this room, right now. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear. His wife grabbed his arm. What is she talking about? "I'm not going to say his name, because he's not worth it, but I am going to sing that song, and he's going to sit there and listen to every word, every line that's about him, every truth he tried to hide." She nodded to her band. "This song is called Stone Cold Sober, and it's dedicated to every liar who thinks they got away with it." The music started, and Paloma sang with a force and fury that she'd never quite captured in recordings. This was personal. This was cathartic. This was justice. "I'll be the late-night lady you won't recognize. I'll be the girl who makes you realize you had something good, something real, something true, but you threw it away for someone new." Every word aimed at Marcus like an arrow, and he sat there frozen while his wife put the pieces together, while 3,500 people sang along, while his past caught up with him in the most public way possible. When the song ended, the crowd erupting, standing ovation, cheering that shook the walls. Paloma took a bow, looked at Marcus one last time, and saw that his wife was crying. Not sadness, anger. She was yelling at him. People around them were staring. And then Marcus did what cowards always do. He got up and ran, pushed through the crowd and fled the venue like his life depended on it. His wife stayed, watched the rest of the show, and after, she came backstage.
Her name was Claire. She was shaking when Paloma's security brought her to the dressing room. "I'm so sorry to bother you," Claire said, "but I need to know, was that song really about Marcus?" Paloma looked at this woman, this stranger who'd unknowingly married a liar, and felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, sympathy. "Yes," Claire said gently, "it was." Claire sat down. "How long ago?" "We dated from 2008 to 2010. He cheated on me, lied about it, gaslit me, made me think I was the problem." "Oh, God," Claire's voice broke. "He told me you were crazy, that you were obsessed with him, that you wrote songs about him because you couldn't let go." "I wrote songs about him because he destroyed me, and then he tried to rewrite history to make himself the victim." "He's been doing the same thing to me," Claire whispered. "The checking my phone, the accusations, the making me feel crazy. I thought I was going insane." They talked for an hour, two women who'd loved the same man, who'd both been manipulated by him, who'd both had their reality warped by his lies. And when Claire left, she said, "Thank you for singing that song, for making me see the truth. I'm leaving him tonight." She did. Marcus came home to find his flat empty, his wife gone, a note on the table that said simply, "I believe Paloma." The story got out, not from Paloma, not from Claire, but from people who were at that Manchester show. Social media exploded with speculation. Who was the song about? Who was in the audience? Marcus tried to control the narrative, posted on social media about crazy exes and false accusations. But it was too late. Too many people had seen him run. Too many people knew Claire had left him that night. His reputation in the industry crumbled. Artists stopped working with him. His studio bookings dried up. Within a year, he'd left London entirely, moved back to his hometown, gave up on music. Paloma never mentioned him by name, not once. Even in interviews where journalists tried to get her to confirm the story, she'd just smile and say, "Some songs are universal. They're not about one person, they're about an experience, and clearly a lot of people relate to that experience." But everyone knew, and that was enough. Years later, in 2019, Paloma was doing an interview about her career. The journalist asked, "You've written so many powerful songs about heartbreak. Do you ever regret being so honest? Does it feel like giving too much away?" Paloma thought about it. "I used to think that writing about pain made me weak, that it was giving power to the people who'd hurt me. But I realized something. Turning pain into art doesn't give them power, it takes it back." "What about revenge?" the journalist asked. "There are rumors that Stone Cold Sober was written as revenge against an ex." Paloma smiled, that knowing smile. "It wasn't revenge. Revenge is destructive. This was justice. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Revenge is about hurting someone because they hurt you. Justice is about exposing the truth, about making sure they don't get away with it, about protecting the next person they might hurt." She paused. "And if that comes wrapped in a catchy melody that people want to sing along to, even better." The interview went viral. Women around the world responded, shared their own stories of being gaslit, manipulated, lied to, of turning their pain into art, into activism, into power. And somewhere in a small town far from London, Marcus Holt read that interview and knew that he could escape what he'd done, that Paloma Faith had created a monument to his betrayal that would outlive them both. Because here's the thing about songs, they don't die, they don't fade. They get sung by new generations who don't even know the original story. They become part of the cultural fabric. Stone Cold Sober has been streamed over 50 million times. It's been covered by dozens of artists. It plays at weddings, at karaoke bars, in cars and clubs around the world. And every time someone sings it, Marcus Holt's betrayal gets remembered, gets retold, gets enshrined in melody. That's not revenge. That's immortality. The wrong kind. Today, Paloma Faith rarely talks about that chapter of her life. She's moved on, found real love, built a family, created a legacy that has nothing to do with one toxic relationship from her early 20s. But when young artists ask her advice about dealing with heartbreak, about dealing with people who've wronged them, she always says the same thing. Write it down. Every detail, every lie, every moment they made you doubt yourself. Write it all down, and then turn it into something beautiful, something powerful, something that outlives the pain. Because the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. It's taking the thing they tried to break and forging it into something unbreakable. And if they happen to hear it and recognize themselves, if it makes them uncomfortable, if it exposes them to the world. She smiles, that same dangerous smile from the Manchester stage. Well, that's just a bonus. The song that destroyed a cheater wasn't written in anger. It was written in grief, in confusion, in the desperate attempt to make sense of betrayal. But when Paloma Faith sang it on that stage in Manchester, when she dedicated it to every liar who thinks they got away with it, she transformed it into something else entirely. She transformed pain into power, silence into voice,
betrayal into justice, and she taught a generation of women that you don't have to stay silent about the people who hurt you. You don't have to protect their reputations. You don't have to make yourself smaller to make them comfortable. You can tell your truth, in whatever form it takes, in whatever medium you choose. And if that truth happens to be set to a melody that millions of people want to sing, even better. Marcus Holt thought he could cheat, lie, manipulate, and walk away unscathed, thought the worst consequence would be a breakup, thought Paloma would stay quiet, stay small, stay broken. He was wrong, because Paloma Faith didn't just recover from what he did, she turned it into art, into a career, into a moment on a Manchester stage that would haunt him forever. That's not revenge, that's alchemy. Turning pain into gold, turning betrayal into a Billboard hit. And that's the real power of artistic justice. It doesn't just settle scores, it rewrites history. It ensures that the person who hurt you never gets to control the narrative, never gets to be the hero of their own story. Because the truth always finds a way out, sometimes quietly, sometimes in whispers and rumors, and sometimes it comes wrapped in a 3.5-minute pop song that the entire world can't stop singing. Stone cold sober, indeed.